Welcome to Play by Play, a podcast that gives you a running commentary on relevant topics in sports and life. Join championship coaches Pat and Jerry as they give you relevant takes on events as they occur, along with flashbacks from past experiences. Here now are Pat and Jerry doing Play by Play.
Hey, everybody out there. This is Jerry and co-host Pat. We got a great episode for you. We're going to call it our Masters episode, and we've got a special guest that we're going to introduce in two. But Pat, basketball season's behind us. What do you think?
You know what? I found myself watching the last two games, Michigan, Arizona, and Michigan, UConn, and getting bored. Uh, Michigan was on the verge of blowing out UConn all night. They didn't, but it was really never in doubt. And the Michigan, Arizona game was horrible. So I feel like I coached for 5 months and I'm drained. I need a break. Got to go down to Pawleys Island, get golfing.
I feel the same way. I felt like I had coached again in the tournament. I was tired from just watching the games, just exhausted. And then, of course, the drama on the women's side. And by the way, on a positive note, I'm not going to go there, but I saw on a variety of networks all these people that our boy would go on their shows and podcasts, all ripping him a new one. And I was thinking to myself, if he came here, this is one place where we would treat him really good and not rip him.
Yeah, we would talk visiting Italy, food, wine, and uh, and what players are you going to bring in next year?
That's right, and a little basketball that way. But we got a really good one today. I've been wanting to do a Masters one since we've started. This is episode 86, folks, and we have Steve Dresser. Steve is a Class A member of the PGA. He's been teaching golf for over 40 years, and he's estimated to have conducted over 40,000 private lesson and 7,000 golf school lessons. I've been to the golf school. I've been fitted for clubs there. I've had my entire game shaped there from himself and his instructors. It's probably the best golf school in South Carolina, if not in the country. I can't say enough about it. Steve co-hosted Celebrity Tea Time with Mickey Jones of TV's Home Improvement. He had his own cable TV instruction program, The Way to Better Golf. He authored a book, Golf from the Ground Up, and has written articles for Senior Golfer, Travel Host, On the Green Magazine, Golf Digest, and Today's Golfer. Steve received a prestigious Palmer Maples Award from the Carolinas PGA section for Teacher of the Year, is a four-time finalist for Best Instructor, is listed in the book America's Greatest Golf Instructors, and Golf Digest annually ranks his teaching abilities as tops in the state, and Magazine considers him one of the best instructors in the Southeast. Please welcome to Play by Play, Steve Dresser. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Jerry, Pat, thank you. What a nice introduction. I was almost impressed with myself hearing that. So thank you. And it's a really pleasure to be on your show. I've heard lots of good things.
Well,
You've had some
Steve,
pretty cool guests, so I'm honored to be one of them.
well, it's Masters Week, and we wanted to just talk Masters and what your experience has been. Um, what's it like actually for the people that are playing that course? Why is it so difficult? Just what's the overall experience for the Masters? And then we'll get into some golf instruction too, if you want.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, the Masters, it's that might be my favorite sporting event of all. Not just golf tournament, but over any of the other sports too. There's nothing like Masters Sunday, and um, I have been to the tournament several times. It's a perk through my PGA membership that is a very nice privilege. And I don't really like to go on Sunday because I'd rather be sitting in my recliner with a big screen in front of me, and then I could really see everything that's going on. But just even the parking lot is like freshly sodded. I mean, before you even get into the place, I remember we were there last year, and we pulled into this parking lot, said, wow, this is nicer than most fairways and maybe even some greens on some golf courses. And then, so just, everything is immaculate. You won't even find a pine cone on the ground on the whole course, even though they have all those gigantic pine trees there. And they just know how to do it. They know how to run the tournament. They know how to control a large crowd of people. The concession stands, you'll go over and see 50 people in line, and oh, I gotta wait for this. And 5 minutes later, you're out of there. They know how to get you right through and back out watching the action. And the golf course itself, you mentioned or asked what makes it so difficult. It's always been known as being pretty playable from tee to green. The fairways are pretty generous, and if you do happen to hit in the woods, it's usually pretty clean. You can at least find your ball and get a shot out of there. The greens and the undulations, the high def TV has helped that a lot, but there's still nothing like being right there and seeing the 20-foot putt break 25 feet. They've really got to pay attention on the greens there. And they're very careful where they landed on the green. There's a lot of them would rather have a 30-foot fairly flat putt than a 10-foot extremely breaking putt.
Yeah, I notice in Masters that I've watched, nobody goes pin hunting there. They literally are placing their shots in different spots on the green to get the best putt possible.
Yeah, no question about that. And of course, probably the 12th hole, that dastardly little par 3, is the biggest example of that. And the Sunday pin is usually what kind of back right, and those who know just do not aim at that pin. And if they can just get it on the green somewhere and get away with a par, even frankly bogey on that hole, that's not going to kick you out of the tournament. And you got to avoid the big numbers there.
What style of golfer typically does the best there, other than good golfers? I mean, Tiger did well there.
Right. Well, they always used to say like a right to left player does well. And if you think about it, Bubba Watson and Phil Mickelson were left-handed faders, where they have 5 victories between the two of them. Because there are a lot of holes that do turn to the left, but I think mostly now it's just flighting the ball, being able to stop it on the greens. These guys can drive it pretty much anywhere they want to these days. So just the iron game and of course the short game around there too, because I just saw an article earlier today about the depths of the different grasses. I think fringes are going to be a 1/4 inch. The greens will be 1/8 of an inch. So you're having to hit a pretty testy little shot off a tight lie. And they can, especially if you're long and hitting back down a green. Like I've seen a lot of people behind 15, the par 5 that has the water in front, they'll hit over and then chip back on. And 5 minutes later, the ball finally trickles into the water in front of the green. So it definitely tests your short game. And I think the iron play is really, really important.
Pat?
Yeah, Steve, what would be your you've been to 5 of them. What would be your favorite moment at the Masters? The ones that
Hard
you
to
attended?
pinpoint one. I will take my dad took me there in 1978. That was my second time getting to go, and that was when Gary Player shot 64 on Sunday, and what was it? It's Hubie Green had the lead most of the week, and he got up to 18 with about a 3-footer to get in a playoff, and missed it. The actual television broadcast, the audio came out over the speakers in the tower as he was standing over the ball, so he had to back away. And I was actually standing there and saw that. so that was and the other funny thing was I don't think I saw a player hit a shot because he teed off so much earlier. He was way up ahead, and we're watching the leaders, but you kept hearing the roars and hearing the roars, and then their their iconic manual scoreboard at 5 minutes after the birdie's made, the number finally comes up, and it's just pretty cool to watch that. But the most electric moment, I was there in 2019 and sitting in the grandstands next to 15 green and 16 tee. And Tiger came through on Saturday and birdied both of them to take the lead. And I mean, you would have thought you were at the Super Bowl, the way the crowd just went nuts. I mean, it was that I was with two other golf pros, two other guys who I teach with, and we just kind of looked at each other and said, "Whoa, I think we just saw some history being made." That was really cool.
Well, we talked about the perfection of the Masters, but you're saying that the TV broadcast went over the loudspeaker before Hubie Green stepped up to his putt?
Yeah, you can find that on the internet, and
That's a mistake.
it was just a few words that came out, and but the poor guy had to back off of it and then go back up and try to make this short putt again. Yeah, that
Wow.
was 1978. I think the technology's probably improved a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
absolutely.
I hope so.
There's no loudspeakers on the course now, right? Other than the first tee.
Correct. Yeah, and yeah, just to be announced on the first tee. That's the only time you'll hear anything like that.
So, Steve, for people that, let's say, young kids that want to maybe have a dream of being a professional golfer, where do they start? And how do they start? How do they get going?
Well, golf is certainly starting to reach out to a lot more people than it used to. And it used to be considered kind of a way, but when I first started, it was a rich man's game, and it was mostly men playing, and there were a lot of wealthy people in it. There's been a lot of great programs, like the first tee, of course, is a good way to get started. And the PGA has come up with PGA Junior Golf League. We don't host one ourselves because you have to have.
Mm, Pat?
Just hope it always helps, of course, if the parents play already. That's how my kids got into the game because of me, and I got into it because my dad played. But you can go to pretty much any golf course that's open to the public, and they're likely to have a PGA member teaching there, or come to a place like ours. We run a lot of our own junior programs. We have a couple or two, I think we're up to 3 afternoons a week now after school. We do a junior program, a lot of individual lessons with the juniors, and then the summer camps will be coming up pretty soon too.
Yeah, you've got a kids camp, right? And
Right.
yeah, the summer
Yep, and
camp.
we have in the summer we take the advanced players in the morning and the newer players in the afternoon. So that I think it's really pretty easy to get started in golf. Staying in it might be a little bit different story because now where's this kid going to play? If he's fortunate enough where his parents live on a golf course or are members of the course, and he or she can take advantage of that. That's wonderful. But sometimes it's hard to actually get out and find a place to play as regularly as you'd like to. When I was a kid, our little golf course in my hometown up in Vermont was like daycare for me. It just dropped me off in the morning and picked me up in the evening. Then when I was old enough to ride a bike, I'd ride my bike over there and just spend the whole day. It was great, but I was very fortunate to have that situation.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know that I've ever asked you this, but what is the overall theme um, of your school, of the when people come there? What is
Well, in terms of how we operate, for many years, the biggest part of the program was really for the vacationing golfers. I've done golf schools in other parts of the country, but I've been here since 1989, so I'm coming up on 37 years. And I've usually been in a resort area, so we put together kind of a vacation golf school where we can put the players up in on-site condominiums, teach them in the morning in our classes, and then set up a tee time for them at our golf courses, True Blue and Caledonia, in the afternoon. So it's like when I first started in this area, I call it's the golf vacation that includes instruction. So it's like you're going on a golf vacation, but you're going to get some help with your game while you're there. So that was kind of the nucleus of it all. We've really, as you know, we've really rolled out into club fitting, custom club fitting, and we carry a lot of the famous brands with their fitting carts and have the launch monitors, all the toys for fitting. And then on top of that, we do a lot of private lessons, a lot of topic specific clinics, meaning this 1 hour clinic is going to be strictly on putting. Sometimes maybe strictly just on short putting. So we have usually 4 or 5 days a week. There's something being offered in that area too.
Yeah.
So we kind of offer about anything you want to help you get better at golf.
Yeah, the private lessons are amazing, and getting fit is just an experience in itself for anybody that never has had that experience. Getting fit for clubs with the shaft and what you do that's so different than a lot of places is they fit outside in the grass, whereas a lot of places hit off of mats when they fit,
Right. Yeah.
or they fit inside. So you're getting true feel with
Right.
the golf clubs that you're testing.
Yeah,
And
we've always advertised that too. You're going to actually get to see the ball flight. You're going to get to feel how the clubs interact with the turf, because we know, mats are great and it's certainly a nice alternative, better than nothing. But we know it's still nothing like natural grass. Plus, if we're fitting for wedges, we can take them into a real greenside bunker and see how the different bounces and grinds perform in the different sand types, be it deep and fluffy, or some places it's a little harder and not quite so much sand. So you get to actually test that out too. I think that's a big part of it. That we actually include that in our advertising. You're going to see the ball flight when you come to us. You're not going to watch it hit a screen 10 feet in front of you and say,
yeah,
that was a good one.
I would tell our audience that True Blue in Caledonia, that also has the SteveDresser Golf Academy, is a top 50 golf course, public golf course nationally. It's in the top 50, 75.
Yeah,
It's one of the top.
from a whole, there's so many different rankings out there. Golf Digest, Golf Magazine, Golf Week, Golf World, blah blah blah. So some of them they're in the top 100, some they're in the top 50. Both courses are amazing, as you know, and they are so different from one another, despite both being Mike Strant's golf courses. And maybe some of you out there don't know who he was. He unfortunately left this world at a fairly young age, and I think he got to do about 7 golf courses, including Tobacco Road. A lot of people have heard of that one. Yeah, right. And but Caledonia is more of the just the typical parkland, beautifully with the oak trees over there are just phenomenal. Driving down the oak tree tunnel, a little bit like Magnolia Lane, except it's live oak lane, and just a beautiful piece of property. And then you go across the street to True Blue where we are, and you've got this massive golf course with a couple of the fairways. I think you could land a 747 on them. But then as you get closer and closer to the green, it gets a little trickier. There's some pretty deep bunkers. As you know, most all the bunkers have steps to get in and out of them.
To get in and out.
Otherwise, you need to be lowered and hoisted with a crane or something.
Right.
Some of them, yeah. So it makes for a neat experience, because even though, and you certainly can see some of the similarities with Strantz's design characteristics, but they really are quite a bit different from each other in their overall look. I always said Caledonians like playing golf at Neiman Marcus, and True Blues like playing at Home Depot. You got a industrial strength golf course, which when people play it for the first time, they think, wow, that was a tough course. But once they play it a few times, and I'm sure you've discovered that too, it's really quite playable. It's a fun course.
Oh, really fun course. Yeah. And they keep the greens immaculate even with all the play. They,
Yeah.
the grounds crew there does a great job keeping that course immaculate, every aspect of it. So another question I've always had: who are some of the big players or players that have come through your golf school that have had lessons there?
Well, I wish I could list off, 15 of the top 30 players on tour right now. And we have been primarily a vacation golf school
Yeah.
for years. And of course, we teach a lot of the locals, but we've had several or quite a few kids go on to play college golf, including my daughter, if I dare say so. And as far as people who have actually been there at the school, we've had a few from the LPGA tour. Christy McPherson was a local, and she used to come and work with Mike Schroeder when he was working with us, and she would bring a few of her friends with her occasionally. Dustin Johnson's been on premises, along with who else has been down? Bill Haas has been there. That was his caddy back then used to take lessons from us. So he brought Bill with him one day, and I didn't even realize it was him. And I was maybe, on one end of the tee box, and he's down on the other 40 yards away. And I'm just kind of looking, that guy's got a pretty good move. And I just, no wonder he does. He just won the tour championship last year.
So Masters Week, how many days do they get to practice, or when can they arrive there? When do they allow them on that course? Because they're pretty.
Well, I think some of the players, like past champions and stuff like that, have maybe a little more privilege to go there throughout the year. But most of them usually, if they did not play in the tour event the week prior to it, they all have different styles. Some of them want to come in having just played an event, so they just had 4 competitive rounds, hopefully 4, not 2, under their belt right before the tournament, and then so they'll probably get there late on Monday or maybe late Sunday. But a lot of them do get there maybe toward the middle of the week prior, and they'll just. I've also been to the practice rounds there, and it is kind of interesting to see how they spend a lot of time on the greens when they're there, because they're pretty sure they know where the holes are going to be throughout the week. So they don't seem all that worried about their ball striking. They seem more worried about, okay, what's this putt going to do? What's that putt going to do? And so they get to the green quickly, and then it's a few more minutes before they're departing the green. Interesting to watch.
Pat, you got any questions?
Yeah, Steve, when you did your TV shows, Celebrity Tea Time and The Way to Better Golf,
Right.
were they shown just in South Carolina, or where were they shown at?
The one, The Way to Better Golf, was mostly in the local hotel channels. But if the Myrtle Beach area has hundreds of hotels all up and down the beach and inland and everything, so that actually got a lot of exposure. I have that was quite a few years ago, but when I first came to this area, I would do about anything to get a lesson.
Right.
And so that generated a lot of business. The other one, the Celebrity Tea Time, that was a lot of fun. It was hopefully going to roll out into a national television show. It was the premise was would bring a celebrity in and play a few holes with them, and I'd help them out a little bit, and then typically we'd end up at a local restaurant to try to give them a little bit of exposure, just kind of have our little post-game conversation and try to keep it light and humorous. So unfortunately, that one never did make it past the pilot, but that was a big production. We had that Mickey Jones, who co-hosted. He had a recurring role on Home Improvement. He's been in a whole bunch of movies. He's also a great musician. He played with Kenny Rogers in the first edition, and he was an interesting guy. And the pilot, we ended up bringing in Jim Hampton, who's been in he was in Sling Blade. He was his first role, which we might remember, the rest of the audience may not, was with F Troop on TV.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, and he was caretaker in the original Longest Yard, the Burt Reynolds version, and
Oh
a
wow.
whole bunch of other stuff. And he was an interesting guy. He was a lot of fun. He gave me a bunch of grief, which I liked because I could give it right back to him.
And if I may, on a teaching note, is there a technique? I'm not a golfer, okay?
Okay.
But I've seen people get lessons, and we teach basketball fundamentals
Sure.
and have all our lives. So is there a teaching technique or gimmick that works really well for you and your students that you employ quite a bit?
Right. Now that's an interesting and good question, because there are teaching methods out there, and even myself, if I wanted to subscribe to somebody's style, I could become certified in their way of teaching things. But me personally, and really everybody on the staff, yes, there's common denominators that we're looking for. There are fundamentals, but if I get a new player, the first thing I ask is that, you do a little bit of a physical screening with them and find out what they're physically capable of doing. So, well, I've had 3 rotator cuffs. Well, how high can you raise your arm? Okay, well, you're not going to have a very big backswing, and our local demographic, there's a lot of retirement age people, so there's definitely a lot of replacement parts on people that we deal with. Lots of knees. Right, Jerry?
That's right.
And so we have to take all that into account. But the modern day swing is among the tour players who are now in ridiculously good physical condition. I remember going to a tour event as a kid, and the players would finish playing and go in the clubhouse and order a cheeseburger and pound down a couple draft beers. And now they're going back out to the driving range. They're going to the fitness trailer. They're going to get massage therapy, all of that stuff. I mean, it's just a huge, huge business. Now they're each like small corporations,
Yeah.
and they are physically capable of really. It's become a much more body-driven swing. When I was a kid, it was more hands, arms, and wrists, and so if you can make those moves, yeah, we definitely try to get them to do that if they can. I'm more of a guy. I like to observe where the ball is going, kind of backtrack that to impact, and figure out, okay, if this player likes to or tends to hit the ball quite a bit left or right or whatever, let's figure out why. It's obviously the club face angle at impact, but why is it facing that way and not that way? Is it the grip? Is it something they're doing in their backswing? So I pay a lot of attention to just the overall flight of the ball.
In lessons, they have a camera, and they will take you back, and you'll sit and watch on a big screen your swing, but then they'll pair it up to a golfer swing. Like you might get side by side to a professional golfer, and you'll see the similarities and the areas that you might be able to fix. And I know that they work on alignment with me for things first, is making sure I know where my target is and where I'm hitting. And then after that, my takeaway and not coming over the top, which tomorrow I'm going to show how that's been fixed in my lessons. But everything, um, and I probably will say, because I did learn to play golf late in life, and it was through the school mostly. No one taught me any fundamentals, so I'm more of a technical golfer, like a real fundamental basketball player that dots their I's and cross their T's. Um, Pat, I'm that way in golf. I'm very technical.
Well, and that's
Now,
something that we try to take into account. We try to get to know you as a person and a player so we can teach you what we think will be best for you. Because the next person, you tell them something kind of specific and technical, and you see smoke coming out of their ears. So you've got to be able to adapt to each individual. You caught on pretty quick, though, Jerry. I got to hand it to you. How long did it take you before you were shooting in the 80s?
oh gosh,
Well,
a couple of
it,
years, but
Yeah,
I practiced hard.
yeah, you did. Yeah.
Every lesson I've ever had with you, with the exception maybe currently, because just I'm trying to get my stuff back. I would go to the range and work on the lesson
Right,
immediately afterwards, and I
right.
would get a bucket of balls and just work on that lesson.
And that definitely works. I mean, you mentioned earlier that I've taught 40, 50,000 people. Very small percentage of them really will put the work in, but those who have always, done very well with the game.
you guys would have a hard time with my swing. If you're 50 yards up the fairway to the right, my ball's going to whip around and hit you in the head.
I literally know now where my miss is. I'm that consistent that when I miss a swing, I know that the ball's going to go right. It just goes straight right. I mean, I know that, and I'm trying to get my handicap back, so it's going to take a lot of practice. The last couple rounds I've had were Jerry type rounds.
Well, I thought your handicap was back, hole 1 through 15. I thought it was back.
No, it varies. I had a good round today. I had a good round on Sunday, but since I've been back from the knee replacement, I think I've added 5 strokes to my handicap.
Did
Well,
your
that's
short game
get.
get better?
Short
Go ahead,
game's
Steve.
getting really good.
Because a lot of people who are coming off knee surgery or knee replacements say, well, I was so antsy, I had to get out and get a club in my hands. The doctor said I could work on my short game, and they do get. I had a guy the other day with double. He had one done last year and one 2 years ago, and he said his short game's a lot better than it ever was. That was
Yeah,
all he was allowed to practice.
putting and short game are good. My distance in short game, like you know, chipping up to the green. Sometimes I go past the hole. Sometimes I'm too short. My
Right.
club selection is off. I use 3 clubs, and if I don't pick the right one, but all up here. That's why we have sports psychologists. That's why we have sports psychologists
Exactly. Yeah.
who
Well,
help.
that's the other thing too. We were talking about the tour players, and how they go to the fitness trailer. I mean, they have their performance specialists and nutritionists and everything, so they can
I, I
perform at
I
top
met
level.
I met the PGA sports psychologist hired by the PGA to work with players on sports psychology and performance. And I happened to sit next to her at dinner and got to talk to her. And she told me, believe it or not, the number one thing that she works on with players, not technical, it's how can I be a, a really great professional golfer and a family man. She goes,
Yeah,
it's mostly with the players that have just had kids.
right. Yeah, that's got to be a tough thing to balance. You think
Yeah,
Jack Nicklaus had a whole bunch of kids, didn't he? He seemed to handle that extremely well.
yeah. Well, so you're going to the Masters on Thursday. Thursday, you'll be there a couple days at the Masters.
You're gonna be there for Friday and Saturday, yes.
And anything special happening at the school that you want to promote?
Well, this is usually our busiest time of year. And so you can find all that's going on the website there. It's SteveDresserGolfAcademy.com and see what's going on this month. Again, we have all the clinics happening every week and the golf schools. There's five of us full-time, all PGA Class A pros. So you can usually even in April, usually you can find one of us to find some time for you on a few days' notice. Sometimes it does
You
take
have now 5 people on staff?
five full-time PGA, yes. And then we have a few others who help us out, and we have some bigger schools and classes and with the junior camps too, stuff like that.
Jerry,
Yeah.
we need both Steve and you to tell us who your favorites are for the Masters. FanDuel has 4 names here, but let's hear from our guest.
What, Jerry, you want to go first?
Well, I'm gonna go with Jordan Spieth
Hmm.
and and Scotty Scheffler. I think Scotty's due for one of those good rounds, and the course is usually plays to his strengths.
That's interesting with Jordan because it's been a little while with him, but sometimes just you get within that aura of the Masters, and it doesn't matter how you've been playing leading up to it or what's been going on. Something magical can happen. I've always thought Xander plays that course really well, Xander Schauffele, and he's been playing reasonably well. So I think he's got a pretty good chance. It's be interesting to see all the past champions and how they're going to handle it. We haven't heard a lot about Dustin Johnson, but he's eligible to play, so you never know.
Yeah, there's some live golfers that'll be there,
Right, right.
and
And, but
they'll play. And Spawn is on a. He's been playing good golf.
sure, Jim just coming off a
Who
win.
does FanDuel say, Steve?
FanDuel has Scheffler, a clear favorite, followed by John Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and then Rory. But I don't believe in Rory. The next three, the next tier, Ludwig Aberg,
Right.
Shoffley, as Steve mentioned, and Cameron Young.
Wow. So well, Cameron Young rings makes sense, and so does Steve. And Aberg is really good. He's been on a roll.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's a great player.
Well,
There you go.
When it comes to Masters Week, I mean, it's a roll of the dice. It really is. So it'll
well,
be.
we will have to see. My last question: will we ever see an LPGA event at the Masters?
Hmm. I don't think in my lifetime, and I don't think it's because of something they don't want to have. I mean, they've obviously made some pretty nice inroads with the amateur event they
They
just
got
had.
women amateur, yeah.
Right, yeah, that's pretty cool. That by the way, for those who can't get in to see the Masters, because it is one of the toughest tickets in sport, the the coolest part of going there is seeing the golf course. So that's not a bad way to get to see the course. The tickets are, I understand, are reasonably accessible for that. But they've obviously come a long way over the years of trying to appear to be more inclusive and having that women's tournament there. And then of course the kids thing with the drive, chip, and putt. That's just that's so cool that they host that there. And but my gut feeling is I don't really see an LPGA event there in the near future.
I
Be
just
cool if
love
they
to
did
see
though.
Ellie Corda on that course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. I'm sure she'd love to see herself on that course too.
Okay, folks. So Steve Dresser Golf Academy. Thank you, Steve. It's at the True Blue Caledonia Golf Courses, and it's in Pawleys Island, South Carolina. Please like, subscribe, and comment. and go there and get a lesson so you can go out and play some good golf. Thanks, Steve.
Oh, thank you guys. I really enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun, and enjoy Masters Week.